Countdown to Halloween, featuring Gregory Miller's Dark Nights and Candlelight, 31 Tiny October Tales. Welcome to story number 31, The Final Night. Happy Halloween! Hopefully you've been with us all month and heard all 31 stories. If you missed any, you can still read them in the book. If you haven't already, be sure to listen to the introduction to the book right here on this channel. And now, tonight's story from Dark Nights and Candlelight, 31 Tiny October Tales. October 31st. The Costumes. Susan Ward hit the ground running, her passage stirring fallen leaves in the sidewalks, breath a warm bellows in the cool evening air. She counted the jack-o'-lanterns, the lit, the unlit, the being lit, as she passed each house and zigzagged down the blocks, fairy wings rippling like bicycle streamers. The smell of wood smoke mingled with simmering pumpkin, cool earth, lit candles, and ripe apples. Down Knapp Street, across Green, up Washington, past Elm, down Dogwood, and then finally to Main Street. Lamp-post cornstalked, town clock a maypole of October lights. She ran the way only 12-year-olds can, which is like the unfettered wind of a storm before the hard rains begin to fall. Just past the clock was the old war memorial fountain, cracked and long dry but for a shallow pool of stagnant rainwater, yet kept out of fondness for the fixture and respect for the names inscribed on its base. For decades now, people had sat on its wide stone rim to eat ice cream cones and popsicles in summer, catch their breath after shoveling snow in winter, and to simply jaw, joke, and gossip. It was a generations-old meeting place, and so Susan stopped here now, first of all her group, and waited for the others to join her. She didn't have to wait long. Next to arrive was Mary Fry, dressed as a very convincing witch. Then Harvey and Harry Jenkins, matching mummies, turned a corner, both singing the hearse song. After that, Rose, John, Stephen, and Leonard appeared at the top of Cherry Hill, raced down the steep 2 blocks, and slapped the fountain split seconds apart. An enchantress, a devil, a Frankenstein monster, and a Dracula, all breathing hard but giggling. Dorothy Kearns appeared next, a resplendent Egyptian princess. And then finally, belatedly, Arthur Mollers came trotting up from the direction of the train station, his pirate sword slapping against the side of his leg, eye patch and shoulder parrot both slightly askew. "Sorry," he said. "The train was late." And then all of them were talking and laughing, clapping each other on the back, pointing at each other's costumes, pulling pillowcases out of pockets as, from scores of houses all over town, other children emerged, ready for the task ahead, and moved out into the evening as the clock struck 7, and Halloween officially began. "It felt like forever this year," Susan said to Rose. "Geez, it takes so long to come around." "It sure does," Rose said, nodding. "But now it's here, and it's so good to see you." And that was all. A few more words, and then there just wasn't much else for them to say or share. They knew it all already, or chose not to think about it. So instead of talking further, they simply clasped hands. "Ready?" said Stephen Frankenstein. "Ready!" the others all said, or murmured, or thought. Together they moved off down the street, one group of children among many. House to house, door to door, street to street, they ran, stomped, paraded, dashed through cool darkness to the many oases of light and warmth, accepting popcorn balls and Hershey bars, gobstoppers, and candy corn. At one house, they all received wax vampire teeth. So for the next 15 minutes, regardless of costumes, they all bared their fangs and spoke like Bela Lugosi. Reaching the far end of town proper, they passed over the dark-covered bridge that spanned Pebble Creek, collected full-sized candy bars from the rich families that lived in a half-dozen old Victorians that had somehow survived a century. And then they circled back to the stream 3 blocks further up, clattered across the Boy Scout footbridge, and dove back into the center of town, this time targeting the streets higher up the hill. And during those 2 breathless hours, Susan Ward made sure to take it all in, the sights, the smells, the feel of the evening. She was a youthful dynamo on a fresh, vibrant night. The whole town, houses and streets below, wind and shifting clouds above, alive. All the lights, the laughter, the costumes, the candy, the decorations, they represented an excuse, since one is often necessary, for everyone to cast off the barriers between them and join something bigger. No one left out who doesn't want to be. All welcome who care to show up. And she was in it. She was part of it. They all were. Ah, what a gift 2 hours can be, she thought. But of course, there always comes a time during every good outing, a vacation, a holiday, a reunion, when things begin to wind down. Shortly before 9, with night fully fallen, the wind now cold instead of cool, and the jack-o'-lantern candles on every stoop, porch, and railing burned down to guttering wax, the group slowed to a steady, leisurely walk, and unspoken understanding rippled through them that the last door had been knocked on, the last treat stuffed in overstuffed pillowcases. And so they found themselves back at the old fountain, their pillowcases heavy, their sweaty masks off and tucked under arms or folded neatly and stuffed into pockets. Harvey and Harry were already digging into their loot and piling up the Kit Kats, Harvey, and Reese's peanut butter cups, Harry. Rose chewed a bit of honey slowly, thoughtfully. John was dumping the contents of a pixie stick into his mouth. Stephen was chugging a grape little hug, and Leonard was enthusiastically munching on a popcorn ball. Only Arthur, whom Susan had known since kindergarten, and Susan herself, abstained. I never really liked candy, Arthur said, nudging her. I always traded it with my friends for toy soldiers and marbles. I just loved getting it. Know what I mean? Susan nodded. She had dumped hers out on her lap in a great cascading pile and was now staring at all the colors and shapes and labels. Oh, I do, she replied. And though I do love eating it, I love seeing it all there before I touch a piece even more. It always made me sad in late November when only a few hard, broken candies were left, all the good stuff gone. But there's always next year, said Arthur. Yes, Susan said, choosing a Butterfinger. There's always next year. The goodbyes were brief. Well, I'm going to drop this off on my granddaughter's porch, said Leonard, hefting his pillowcase. Rose, John, and Stephen, who also had no use for their takes after Halloween night, had likewise chosen grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and other young recipients to inherit them. The porch distributions would take about half an hour, Susan knew. And then the four of them would head back up Cherry Hill together, before continuing along Church Street and then on to the cemetery. Arthur, who was buried 4 towns over, had just enough time to catch the last train back. He gave a whoop, a wave, and then sprinted off toward the station, a little figure quickly disappearing, then gone into the cold dark. The Jenkins twins skipped off, once again singing the hearse song, turned back and saluted in unison, then rounded the corner. 2 blocks farther down, Susan knew, the creaky old house where the 2 widowers had lived for over 20 years awaited them in quiet shadow. Dorothy cleared her throat. Mary, come on by for bridge and tea on Tuesday. Susan, I'll be over to... Susan smiled and shook her head. No, there's no need to stop by and visit, Dorothy. Same goes for you, Mary, although I'm sure you both will anyway. I'm afraid I won't even know you. In fact, I'm sure I won't. And I suspect that next Halloween, if you get to the fountain first, you'll see me coming down from Cherry Hill with John and Rose and the others. Oh, it can't be long now. They hugged, they parted, and then Susan walked back across town. A little girl all alone, fairy costume now wilted, one wing bent. Halloween was over. It was time to go home. There's nothing more lonely or desolate than being the last to leave a party, all the lights up, all the excitement spent. And so she broke into a trot, up Dogwood Street, past Elm, down Washington, and across Green, and finally up Knapp, to the big building at the end of the street. No one inside would notice her. That's how it always was on Halloween. She slipped through the code-locked doors that would never let her through, let her out, on any other day of the year. She passed by the nurse's station, past rooms where people slept soundly or fitfully. past the sound of breathing machines and garbled talk, past the smell of bleach, latex, gloves, and urine. And then, with a sigh, she entered her own room, the door clicking lightly shut behind her. 45 minutes later, Annie, one of the night nurses at Elmwood Nursing Home, stopped by Susan's room on her rounds. On the chair next to the bed lay a pillowcase, and on top of it a note with her name on it. Odd, she thought. I don't remember that. She opened the folded paper. Happy Halloween, Annie, it read. To be split amongst your sons at your discretion. Thank you for all you do. Annie looked down at Susan's bed, where the old lady lay in the uneasy half-sleep that often plagues those with late-stage dementia. My son must have come by to visit earlier this evening, she thought. Oh, such a nice man he is. Later, perhaps unbeknownst even to herself, Susan smiled. Her sleep deepened, and in the tidal flow of its flashing and shadow depths, she dreamed of dark nights and candlelight.
Be sure to come back after midnight for the first story of Countdown to Halloween 2022.
You've just heard tonight's story from Dark Nights and Candlelight, 31 Tiny October Tales from author Gregory Miller. You can get this book right now on Amazon at the on-screen link, and Kindle Unlimited users can borrow a copy of the book for free. If you have not already, be sure to listen to our event video here and visit our event website where you can watch and listen to, or re-watch and re-listen to, many of the stories from Halloween 2021. Thank you for joining us for this year's Halloween festivities. You've helped to make it a really special season. Happy Halloween, everyone. Oh, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more great stuff from Storylink Radio.